All right, guys. Today we are gonna be reacting to yikes. German politics takes a turn for the worse. This is James Ray, great YouTuber. We reacted to a couple of his videos. I love to react to his video. He has a more inside baseball of what is going on in Germany. So let's see what he has to say.
This is exactly what I wanted to get into because I did not entirely understand why the collapse happened. It just said that, hey, the finance minister was fired.
It's a quieter affair in Berlin. Germany's governing coalition has collapsed, and what happens next could echo around Europe and into war zones.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, as you guys
War
already know, there
zone?
was an election that took place in the
war
United
zone.
States very recently,
Poland.
and the entire world had a very guttural response to it, as to be expected with the history of what has occurred in the past. But what was another addition to the already chaotic atmosphere of the political climate was an incident that took place in Germany quite recently, having to do with a very interesting debacle with the current coalition. One of the entire branches of the coalition fell off. We're going to be diving into that today. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, please let me know in the comments down below. I normally don't really get into political topics on this channel, but we're going to be talking about it today, and I really do want to be informed. So if you guys have any additional information, please let me know in the comments down below. So this one says, Germany engulfed by political crisis as Scholz coalition falls apart. While the world has been watching Washington, Germany is quietly going into political meltdown. This is a very German crisis involving coalition infighting and complicated constitutional questions. But behind the complex political wrangling, Europe's most powerful economy has been left rudderless at a time when economic growth has stalled and EU leaders are nervous about an impending Trump presidency. Chancellor Olaf Scholz fired Finance Minister Christian Lindner, the leader of one of the three coalition parties, on Wednesday night. Two of Lindner's three colleagues in the cabinet promptly quit, effectively breaking apart the coalition government. Scholz now leads a minority government until fresh elections, which means ordinary business can continue. But because he no longer has a majority in parliament, the chancellor now needs opposition support to push through anything new, including, crucially, the 2025 budget, which is supposed to be agreed upon next week. New measures to help Ukraine or boost defense spending would also be difficult to agree without help from opposition parties. The Social Democrat chancellor has called on opposition conservative leader Friedrich Merz to support him to push through key policies, many of which the conservatives also agree with, such as more support for Ukraine. Met on Thursday with Scholz appealing for constructive cooperation on issues that are crucial for our country, in quotations. Donald Trump's victory is likely to mean less funding for Ukraine, and as Germany is second to the U.S. in financial support for Kyiv, the onus may fall on Berlin to increase its help. Greens Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock has just returned from a visit to Ukraine when she said the coalition collapse was not a good day for Germany and not a good day for Europe. Scholz wants to hold a parliamentary vote in confidence on the 15th of January, which would then lead to elections in March, 6 months before their scheduled date. But it looks like Merz, who wants to be Germany's next chancellor as head of the Christian Democrats, is not playing ball. He has demanded an immediate vote of confidence and snap elections in January, saying that there's a range of decisions within the EU that need to be made, and they need a functioning German government. What it sounds like right now is this government currently in Germany is beefing with itself. Like Olaf Scholz and his party is beefing with all the other parties right now because of some fundamental differences that everybody can't come to terms on. And it's pretty insane. I know it's a lot deeper than that. I'm simplifying it. So if you guys can give me vivid detail in the comments down below of what's going on, please let me know. One way or another, everybody's economy is taking a hit right now. People are definitely a bit worried, and not just locally, but globally. A lot of different changes are going to happen that are going to impact you and myself and the next person in a different country, all because our world leaders are shifting, and the once manageable atmosphere is becoming a little bit unpredictable. We don't know where this is going to go. Tensions are high worldwide. People keep teasing we might have a WW3 in the future, and we don't know, just because tensions are literally that high, and there's so many issues that people feel passionately about. A lot that, of course, I can't mention for monetary reasons, and a lot that you guys know about as well. You feel very passionately about, and it's insane. It's honestly pretty sad where everything has turned recently.
Yeah, I understand what he's saying. However, I have to do a comment. I have to comment on this. Their solutions. Let me just go back before I go to the solutions. There were problems created that were completely unnecessary. Completely necessary. Just incompetent. Why do I say that? Well, Germany's voting certain way, right? Certain areas in the world are voting certain way for no reason, unless a problem was created. Simple as that. What is going on in that region, meaning in the Slavic region, including Ukraine, Russia, it's bad, folks. It's very bad. It's affecting all that region, even the United States as well, and the entire world. But it's basically a war that it never needed to even start in the first place. But at the same time, if Russia wanted to just throw a couple, balloons, I just need to be careful with my language and just put the TOS and YouTube algorithm. If Russia wanted to throw some balloons on Ukraine, Ukraine has the right to just kick those balloons out and tell Russia, hey, Russia, your balloons are not welcome. I understand Europe wanna help Ukraine, but the question is, do they have the income to do so? Are all the countries inside the EU want to help Ukraine? That's the question. I'm just gonna keep listening to James here.
This next part says we cannot afford to have a government without a majority for several months, and then another few months of election campaigning, and then possibly another few months of coalition negotiations, he said. Other opposition parties have called for snap elections as well. Whether they do happen, it's clear that campaigning season has already begun. Germany's president has called for reason and responsibility to prevail, but this was a coalition collapse that was months in the making, and it was all about money. This is exactly what I wanted to get into because I did not entirely understand why the collapse happened. It just said that, hey, the finance minister was fired. Why? Was he allocating funds in a way that people didn't like, or was he allocating funds in a way that the chancellor didn't like? This uncomfortable three-way coalition was pulled apart by two very different visions on how to stimulate Germany's flagging economy. Olaf Scholz's center-left Social Democrats and the Greens want to use debt to modernize infrastructure, shift to environmental energy, and help industry as well as Ukraine. But Christian Lindner's free market liberal FDP is ideologically opposed to new borrowing, instead of calling for lower taxes, cuts in social spending, and pushing back on environmental targets. Wow. That's interesting too.
Very interesting.
Because obviously to go green nationwide, you would have to spend a considerable amount of money.
That technology is very expensive, folks. I used to sell solar panels, and the technology back then, a system will cost you $30,000 to $40,000 per house, per unit. Imagine trying to do for a town or your city. It's a lot of money, man.
It already seems like Germany's in the hole there. America is in a hole of its own financially as well. I'm telling you, I think inflation is hitting the globe in a way we haven't seen in a long time. The jobs are not matching the costs of what we have to pay to just sustain living, at least in America. I'm not really entirely sure if that's accurate for Germany.
No, you're right, James. It's not the wages are not equivalent, or not being equivalent to the lifestyle. So inflation is so high that if you have a job, but if you're earning between $35,000 to $50,000 a year, it's a hard one. It's a hard one.
But let me know in the comments down below, because this is very, very, very critical, and it's very unfortunate. So this is honestly what's happening currently in Germany right now. I have a few questions for you guys before we continue. Are you guys concerned? What are your thoughts on everything that's transpired? There's a lot of different issues. You have different parties that are rising to the top right now that people are questioning. You have current government beefing within itself, which is pretty much resulting in a loss of confidence from the public. And that's also very interesting as well. How do you guys feel about that? Because after hearing about this, I'm telling you, this news is all over America about what's happening in Germany. And again, I feel like the world just needs to heal because right now, seem like a lot of people are in pain. The crunch came in crisis talks this week when it became clear that both sides were irreconcilable.
Damn.
After the talks collapsed on Wednesday night, the chancellor delivered a scathing attack on his finance minister, calling Lindner egotistical and irresponsible for his unwillingness to compromise for the good of the country. He broke my trust too often, said the chancellor, accusing Lindner of putting the short-term survival of his party over the welfare of the country. Such public vitriol from a chancellor about a minister and coalition partner is unprecedented in German politics. If this was the televised public statement, just imagine what the mood was like behind closed doors. Before the U.S. election, Scholz allies argued that now was not the time for early elections and political instability in Germany. But for the past year, coalition rows have regularly blown up over spending. And for voters, the bickering has become unbearable, meaning the poll numbers for all three parties have slumped. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. People vote in general. People are wondering, oh, well, why did you guys vote for Trump? Why did you guys vote for who you voted for? Well, if the current government is not seeing a even decent approval rating from the public, the people who voted these people in office in the first place, they're going to vote for another option. And it might be an extreme option in the complete opposite direction. And that's what we're seeing globally.
Yeah, and I have to agree with James. That's what happened. That's what Trump got elected. Yeah, and I will just go as back at 2008, folks, in the United States. That's in the United States. Taxes, they were increasing the taxes left and right, and then when Biden, Kamala Harris, I don't want to get into the U.S. politics, but man, they really put the nation in a bad spot, very bad spot. The illegal immigration. Imagine this. In 3 years, they allow over 24 to 25 illegal immigrants to just come right through the country. And what that created, what inflation, lower wages, because people are gonna start hiring like low skilled labor. Also, the house market, the houses prices goes up because a lot of these illegal, right? They start, even you don't know, some places they do give houses to these people. I don't know how, but they do. And I remember when I was selling life insurance, I remember seeing people that didn't even have a social security having loans. I couldn't even believe it with my own eyes, but it does happen. So that creates a huge inflation. So the local community get affected, and that happens for years. Then you get a very extreme option, and that's the Trump side, right?
Seeing more conservative parties rise to the top than ever, and obviously, people like to put labels on good and bad or whatever. But I will say, the people who are living on a day-to-day basis, who
they feel
work
different
and have to abide by the new laws that are established by new governments and stuff like that, new government elected officials and stuff, everybody's struggling right now. So obviously, if the current situation isn't fixing things, people are going to vote differently, even if it is extreme. And it's a simplistic way of thinking, but again, if it's affecting your day-to-day and you're barely getting by, and life is a little bit difficult because of some of the choices that your current government is making, then people are going to choose differently. And that's what I've been noticing, not just in America, but globally. How do you guys feel about that? Let me know in the comments down below. We're going to move on to another article. I know a lot of you guys say take the information from DV with a grain of salt. So we'll read through this and you guys give me your opinions. It says, German coalition's demise hits unsettled nation. The coalition government has collapsed at a moment when Germany's mood is already down. Many people are feeling unsettled by multiple crises. So, Germany's first ever three-way coalition comprising of center-left Social Democrats, SPD, Greens, and neoliberal Free Democrats, FDP, has collapsed, signaling the end of what polls say is the most unpopular government of all time. In September, only 3% of respondents to a survey carried out by a pollster, Allensbach Institute for the Public Opinion Research, said that they believed this government was still good for Germany. Only 3%.
Wow,
Only 3%.
That is insane. I never seen such. I mean, the lowest I've seen in the United States is like 20%, but this 3%, that's insane, my guy. That is insane. Wow.
80%. That's insane. That's
Yeah,
diabolical. Yet studies such as the Happiness Atlas 2024, the German government's equality report, and a new survey by the German Institute for Economic Research have found that with inflation improving the pandemic restrictions long past, people in Germany say they are increasingly satisfied with life. John Kampfner, the Reuters news agency's former correspondent in Germany, has observed that the mood is always much worse than actual situation in the country. He argues that Germans have a basic tendency to complain. So, that being said,
Yeah.
if things are genuinely bad in Germany and Germans already complain quite a bit, according to this dude right here, and obviously a lot of social stereotypes, then imagine right now things are getting a bit diabolical. So this is the next statement here. It says, this tendency to complain always gives people an excuse to exempt themselves from responsibility. It's kind of a paralysis, he says. Kampfner believes German.
That's not a good statement. Because you're not holding politicians accountable. That's not a good statement at all. This tendency to complain always gives people an excuse to exempt themselves from responsibility. It's kind of paralysis. This is not a good statement. Because you're literally giving the responsibility or the accountability or blaming this problem to the people of Germany, which is no, bro. They put you there for a reason. You politician, you're the one that need to take care of this, regardless how you think about the German culture. I mean, these politicians, I'm telling you,
have become too comfortable. They always had it very good. There was stability and everything was solid, but there is no culture of innovation, of taking a risk, of starting something new. When it comes to digitalization, for example, they're stuck in the Middle Ages. I feel like y'all are making some improvements, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's like those things will come with time. You know what I'm saying? Like those things will come with time. That's a bad statement.
Change. Oh my gosh. Ivan Krastev, a Bulgarian political scientist, recently summed it up as follows. The last 30 years have been so good for Germany. People want to continue living this way, but the world has radically changed, not least because of the war in Ukraine. Now, Germans, spoiled by success, are being forced to change their lifestyle. This goes against their mindset, which says that all should remain as it is. So what does it take to reform a country unwilling to change? Yeah. Kampfner believes he knows. Above all, a strong chancellor acting like a captain, not a referee. A good example of this was Wednesday evening when Chancellor Olaf Scholz explained his decision to fire Finance Minister Christian Lindner on clear terms. Kampfner said that this was far too rarely done in the past and believes 80% or 90% of the government's problems came down to Scholz's leadership style. Oof.
Well, that's
Oof. Olaf Scholz was very courageous in his speech about a turning point. He took a risk, he said, referring to the February 2022 speech that the chancellor gave shortly after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The chancellor had decided that Germany needs many radical changes. His popularity soared following that speech. But then too little happened. 2 steps forward were followed by 2 steps back. This government lacks leadership. So basically, to sum it all up, it seems like the public's confidence in the government ties basically down to Olaf Scholz's leadership or the lack thereof. And him making a call like this, I'm not sure if the people think it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I can 1,000% say it is a very jarring thing with tensions being the way they are right now globally. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. This literally is being covered currently all over America. And I was like, Jesus, this is insane. And then everybody's saying, is this the collapse of Germany? Is this the collapse of Germany's government? Collapse of Germany's government? And you see headlines and titles like that all over the place. I just think that there's going to be a huge shift very soon. I don't know what the end result of that's going to look like, but you guys can go ahead and detail that in the comments down below.
Yeah, very interesting. James is a very smart guy. I'm telling you, he's a very smart guy. Very smart. Listen, guys, things happen. You know, our government gets closed multiple times. You know, every 4 years, so it happens. You know, like, but in this case, I have no idea how the government. I mean, I reacted to a video about their constitution and how their government works. It's kind of complicated. It's not for the regular guy like me. I need to go a little bit deeper into this. But you know, I think I mean, you guys got it. I'm not worried about you guys. The thing is that The war in that region is messing everybody up, man. And on top of that, if you have a very incompetent government, and then blaming the citizen, I don't think that's the best. That's so bad, man. That is so bad. That is so bad. That's so bad. That's so bad. It never goes well. It never goes well. But yeah, inflation is going. What is going on in that region is lack of leadership. It's lack of leadership. They want to play. They want to only play for the news, for the photo. They don't want to fix anything. So there's a reason why Germany is voting certain way. But I might be wrong. Let me know what you guys think. I'll see you next one.